have them. I haven't seen them. I'll hold up. We got some more people coming in.
Hang on.
One meeting here.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be a wow wrapped in with tithing and giving.
Amen.
Awesome.
That's right.
Isn't that right?
That's right.
That's right.
Welcome.
I don't know, I put my chairs together, but I was trying, and I couldn't. There.
19, how many is it?
I don't know how many weeks I just made that up. I rolled that number out.
It's only that many? It seems like more. All right, so, well, tonight I get to do my wow after, since when did we start this, in December?
Yeah.
So I've seen lots of people give their wows, and they've been touching, so hopefully that, as I give this tonight, it's something that I know that I wasn't ready to do until this week, so there's a reason why I wasn't picked earlier, or there's a reason why it didn't happen earlier, although I always thought I knew what my wow would be about. I didn't really know about this until about exactly 1 week ago. So it was 1 week ago when this really started appearing to me. But realistically, it takes place over the last 3.5 years. So basically about myself, I know everybody's talked a lot about themselves, and I'm not really an easy person to get to know. Anybody who knows me knows that's probably the case. But most people know very little about me. Actually, know that know a little bit about my business background, but really not much to do about me personally. It's not necessarily by design. I just, it's kind of how I grew up. I always make it my business to know more about other people than they know about me, and so you're not going to find out a whole lot about me tonight, but just know that.
Okay, thanks for opening up there to us, Jeff.
You'll learn a little bit, but growing up as a kid, I grew up pretty much, I don't know, in what I thought was a normal lifestyle at the time, or maybe a normal household, and looking back now, it was probably lacking quite a bit. My parents lost a child when I was 6. My oldest brother was 10, and I don't think that they ever really, ever recovered from that in regards to, just life in general. So sharing feelings in my house, it wasn't the norm. It was really quite the opposite of the norm. Just going about your business, ignoring things, keeping things bottled up, or turning to booze or alcohol, things like that was pretty much status quo. So, growing up, I pretty much just learned how to take care of myself, learned how to fend for myself in my house, learned how to cook, learned how to do my laundry, learned how to live. Of course, that transitioned well into the Marine Corps, so that was always a good suit of things to know how to do. But a large part of my life, I know I was headed not so much in the right direction, and I definitely wasn't headed down the right path. So my past really just kind of is what it is. And I've always had a great faith, but the faith I had was more about me and my abilities. And faith was in myself. My faith wasn't in God. I just thought of something too. So Anita once came up to me, and so I'll share this now too. Anita came up to me. Oh wow, it's been a while back, but it was actually I know it was when we were over in there, and who was there?
Robin?
Robin Peake was here. And Anita walked up to me and she said, you remember this?
Yes, I do.
She goes, sorry I called you out, but it's a good story.
But I always hope I haven't offended you.
She said, Jeff, I'm really glad that I got to know you, because when I first met you a little over a year ago, I was pretty sure you were somebody I did not want to know.
I can relate to that.
Those of you who don't know me, you will be able to relate to that at some point in time in my life, right? You will be able to relate to that.
And how did I finish it though?
But that you were glad that you got to know me,
That's
and
right.
that you could see that I had a good heart, and that there was something there worth knowing, and that you were glad you got to see that side. So
Amen.
if you hang around long enough, you will get to see that side that is worth knowing. But when I was reading in the Bible here, not long ago, I came across something in 2 Corinthians, verse, let's see, 2 Corinthians 5:17. And it struck me off as, therefore, if any Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, the new is here. And what that really strikes to me is that as Christians, we become brand new people, right? We're not necessarily reformed or redeemed, but to me, we are recreated or reborn, actually. And God just doesn't really care who we were before, right? He really cares about who we are now, not who we were before. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is really God confirming His Word and how He speaks to us and how He speaks to me. So there's a Shannon West story in this too. About God confirming His Word. When we first started the Bible study, we were also taking a boot camp at the YMCA group of this Word. And you know, lots of things start happening when you start coming to this Bible study, or probably any Bible study, but specifically for me to this one. And I was talking to Shannon as we were probably trying to catch my breath, dying, running around the track. And I said, you know, it's really strange, you know, how I'll be reading something in the Bible, or something will happen in life, or something's going on, and then, you know, something else will be the same thing, right? And then you'll come in the Bible study on Wednesday night, and Derry Walker will be talking about the exact same thing that's weighing heavy on your mind. I said, you know, this is quite a set of circumstances. They're coincidences. And Shannon said, hey, brother. As he's running all cool. He's like, God confirms His Word. God confirms His Word, right? And that's something that's just stuck with me since he said it, really, is that God confirms His Word. It's not necessarily a set of coincidences, but it's confirmation. So let me move more current day in my life here, but I'm gonna go back about 3.5 years ago where I said the WOW started, right? I've been selling software for the better part of 10 years. I guess that's 2010, right? For 10 years, I've been selling for the past 15 years, and at this particular point, I was the #1 rep in my company, globally, out of about 2,000 salespeople. I made a substantial sum of money, over $350,000 that year. But I had my own way of doing things. Yeah, shocker there, right? And I had a little blow up with my my vice president. Basically, he made a decision that I had made enough money that year, and that he wasn't going to pay me on the $500,000 of services that I had sold in addition to this, and which attributed to about $65,000. Well, making too much money is like having too much fun, right? There's no such thing for a sales guy, right? You're a sales guy, you know, you may never make too much money, right? So there's no such thing to you. So that's something that just didn't sit well with me. I remember the conversation. I won't go into detail, but I explained to him that I knew exactly who he was now. I knew exactly who he was. That I knew he wasn't going to stand up for his people. That I knew, that I was not the type of individual that I could see myself working for in the future or ever. And after a few weeks of back and forth, things like this, in the end, basically he fired me. Imagine firing the #1 guy in the world as the VP of sales and having to figure that big hole in the plan out later. I can't imagine it. What's funny is that within less than 12 months, I think it was within 8 months, he also was fired. I don't know. Coincidence?
Figured it out.
I don't know. But I can tell you this much, is that was a devastating point in my life. And Janie sitting here could probably tell you that it's impacted me since that point. It's been just a feeling of just wrongdoing, a feeling of something I couldn't let go of, right? Couldn't forgive, couldn't let go. I just couldn't get past it. And I decided I was never going to go back to work for corporate America again. I knew that was something that was in my vocabulary. Never wanted to work for them again. So I set out on the verge of entrepreneurship. Made a ton of mistakes there. At this point of life, though, I was just really at a bad place. I was at the bottom of my life, as it is today. And it's funny that Shannon Reed is here because he was right there seeing it happen. Funny story about Shannon is that we just met one day in Wichita and realized we grew up down the street from each other in Sedgwick, Kansas. And anyway, the rest is history. But Shannon was one of my partners, along with Janie, in opening a bar. And probably the single worst decision, business-wise, I've ever made in my entire life. Selling the bar, on the other hand, was one of the happiest days. And was on the rebound, bouncing up from the bar. But that outcome of that wrongdoing to me that I felt was something I just couldn't really get past. And I'd made so many sacrifices for that company, for my career, for corporate America, to further myself, to get advancement, and ending up like this, and it was just really like it was pouring salt into to an open wound, and to add the insult to injury, they sent me a final commissions check for $12. I should write that down with something, shouldn't I? Marker of the places there. I should get real prepared. I should remember that, right? $12, right? Not 65 grand, not even 12 grand, $12. I don't even know what the math is, but in my head I'm thinking there's 4 decimal points before we get to a 1 in percentages, right? What is that, 2 10,000ths of 1%? Yeah, it's not good, right? So, I had the worst taste I could ever have, and going into that, I just knew that I just really didn't want to work there again. I never wanted to just be in that position. I knew I would never put myself in that position, regardless of what it meant to me or my family or whatever. The good news is I had a little bit of money to live on and get by with. So, I've been holding on to that, for 3.5 years. And I offer no forgiveness to them, right? I mean, none. No forgiveness. And Janie will tell you, and other people will say that, about 1.5 years ago, I made some major errors in my life and had to climb out of the worst place I've ever been. And, I preach forgiveness to people, right? And that forgiveness is really for you. It's not so much for the other person, but, I've forgiven pretty much myself and everyone and everything in my life up to this point, except for that one thing, right? That I've been holding on to. And it's Satan or the devil that really just keeps us holding on to this so that it can fuel some part of the hatred. So that there's some sort of control over you still. And even as Shauna was talking last week, as this whole thing was coming to fruition in things, it was about letting go, right? It was about letting go and being able to receive. And I had let go of that exactly 1 week ago today.
Amen.
I let it go before I actually got here. Coincidence? I don't know. We'll come back to it. So, moving back, fast forward then back to the week ago, right? From the 3.5 years ago. A week ago, I received a check from CompuWare for $358. 3.5 years later. Not 65 grand, so I'll remind you, but $358. I opened that, I saw that, and it said expense, what did it say? Expense,
American Express expense reimbursement.
yeah, American Express expense reimbursement. It just transported me back to the argument I had when I was fired, that I had already sent that payment in, and the expense Nazis were like, no, we're taking it out of your final check. Not the $12 one. said, but I've already sent that payment in. You're going to get double paid for it. Well, that's fun. But this was a blessing, at my house. Money's been a little bit tight lately, right? I made a lot of money, but that was 3.5 years ago. Right? It's not today. And there's been roadblocks, it seems like sometimes, in order to be able to advance and get to where we need to be. And I'll tell you, the few days prior to receiving that check, I received another check from the Kia dealership. We had recently traded in both of our cars, got new cars to lower our car payments. Amazing. You can trade in 2 old cars, get 2 new cars, and reduce your car payment by like $700 and still have brand new cars. It's amazing. But somehow, we had overpaid or overdone something in the contract, and they sent me a check for about $680. This could not have been at a better time. We were going to Orlando. We had a hotel to pay for. Plane tickets were already paid for, and expenses and things like that, and car payments were due, mortgage was due. Somebody wasn't getting paid. It was that simple. Somebody wasn't getting paid. But when these checks came, this wasn't going to be about tithing and giving, but when Shannon called me earlier and said, "Hey, would you tithing and giving?" I said, "You know what, it might fit right in." So I'll take a little side tangent here. Say that it doesn't need to be really backed up by Scripture here, because we've talked so much about tithing and giving and trusting in God and having faith and doing the right things and just continually doing so, and about giving and the 10th and giving over giving, and people who give a free heart. And I've tried to do that over and over and over every Sunday. It's not even in the tithing. I don't make that much money. I just put it in the giving column. I don't even know what it is, right? Knowing that if I have faith, that it will come back to me. Knowing that when I need something, really need it, that God will provide that to us. So for my extra on tithing and giving, it's just to trust that what you're doing is the right thing. It's to do it out of free heart. It's not a mandatory thing, right? You have responsibilities. You have those things that I talked about a few weeks ago when I was doing tithing and giving. But it's really to do this with a free heart, to do this so that you can just know that it's going to come back, 30-fold, 50-fold, 100-fold, right? And that it doesn't matter where the money goes, right? It's being used. It's not your problem after that. Shannon talks about it all the time. It's not your problem once it leaves your hand. Right, you've done the right thing. So I guess with that, I'll just say that I'm a believer in tithing. I know specifically here at Word of Life, how they talk about on Sunday mornings, what they do, the winning of souls. And those are things that are incredibly important and become important to me to be a part of. So there's no better thing to do with the money. But I know that if you trust in God, that when you need something, it will come back to you. So that ends the tithing and giving section. So.
Amen.
Now, let me back up here. I was a second ago, right? Last December, which was about the time this Bible study started, if I'm correct. Ish, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was reading the Bible, and I was reading it on my phone because I hadn't purchased one yet, or went out and got one, or found one. But it was on Sunday. It was prior to church. I remember the Sunday because Janie and Blake had, my son Blake, my wife Janie, had went forward the Sunday previously and accepted Christ, the week prior. And I watched this very joyfully, but I didn't go with it. I don't know why, but I just didn't join it, right? But this Sunday, this specific Sunday, which was a week later, there was a verse in the Bible that was put on in front of me, and it spoke really loud to me. It was telling me what to do. And this was a Sunday morning. It happened to be the verse of the day on the U version, so anybody knows what that app is. It has a verse of the day. Crazy enough, during the service, Pastor Rob used the exact same verse to preach from. And I was sitting there, and literally I had tears in my eyes, just thinking like, this is speaking very loud. Coincidence? I don't know. But I know that I could hear God telling me, I could hear it telling me to show Him in front of these people, in front of everybody, that I was going to trust in Him. And then on that day, there was an altar call. Pastor Rob called us, and said, anybody who wants to give their life to Christ, raise your hand. Raised my hand. Nervous. And then I went forward, and the rest is history from that point, really. That I did dedicate my life. And at that point, I felt like I was, as I said earlier, recreated or reborn. And the verse is actually Proverbs 3:5, actually 3:5 through 8, as I had it marked. That's how I had it marked in my Bible. Anyway. So Proverbs 3:5 is through 8 is, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. So, not just 3:5, but 3:5 through 8. Verse 6 is really about submitting, and making your path straight. Things will just line up for you. And I told you before that I had a lot of confidence and faith in myself. I had no faith in anything else. Giving this up and creating this just started to align my path since that point. Not being wise in your own eyes, verse 7. And bringing health to my bones. I was a broken individual over life. Not mentally, not physically necessarily, but mentally. And I know that the faith has been a big part of healing that part. So, back to the check. Check was for $358. Which lines right up with Proverbs 3:5 through 8, as I have marked in my book. And I forgot about the argument, like I said, with the expense people. And it took, I started thinking, it only took them 3.5 years, 3.5 years, to correct the mistake. And I had a good laugh. I chuckled, sent a text to my old boss, asked her if she thought that the $65,000 one was coming soon. She said, don't hold your breath. I heard a private equity company is going to buy them and they won't even be public any longer. So, perfect timing for that $358 to come. That's probably why it was coming. They were probably clearing up their books. Have a little audit time. 3.5 years. And then I thought, that God needed 3.5 years to make me realize that I wasn't on the right path. I wasn't on His path. And that, if I have faith in God and not myself, it doesn't hurt to have yourself, but in God first, that all things can change, That very moment, which was a week ago, I knew that I was going to let that go. I was done. And just letting it go. And I deposited that check in the bank, took my phone out, snapped a photo, hit deposit, dropped it like it's hot. Boom. $358. I needed it too. At that point right there, though, I knew that I had to forgive myself for holding on to it for so long, because I've been holding on to this for 3.5 years, and it was time to let it go. I let it go. I felt pretty darn good about it. 2 hours later, my phone rang. And it was a recruiter. Called me wanting to know, what do you want to know? If I knew anybody that'd be looking for, Wichita-based position for hardware and software. 2 hours. 3.5 years it took me to let that stuff go. And 2 hours later, my phone rings. it's one of those things where I knew it was the right time. I knew it was something that wasn't of my, it wasn't my control. I asked the recruiter, I said, well, what's it all about? What's going on? He said, well, it's a brand new position. They just decided they were going to expand their company. They're looking for somebody here locally. I didn't know. I know when he called me about this, I thought about you. And I called you immediately. So this is how quick things can happen when you have faith and trust. It's right there. Pastor Rob said last Sunday, for those of you who are here, what's the series? Checkmate. Basically, his message was that you can come from the worst situation you can imagine. You can raise up under God and prosper. Raise up under God and prosper. From the worst situations you can imagine. Now, I'm sure we can all imagine worse situations than what I'm talking about. But for me, this has been one of the worst situations I've had to go through professionally and personally in my life because I can't let it go. I couldn't let it go. So, coincidence? Confirmation. The Bible talks about coincidence too, and I did find a couple of things. And I noticed that when they talk about coincidence, a couple of places that I found that it's women. But in Ruth 2:20, so I didn't put that in here. So in Ruth 2:20. That's not it. It's easy. Ruth 2:20. Says, the Lord bless him, Naomi said to her daughter-in-law. He has not stopped showing his kindness to the living and the dead. She added, that man is our close relative. He is one of our guardian redeemers. And basically what they're talking about there is Boaz, right? Meaning that Ruth just wandered out into the field, needed to go glean that day, and didn't know what was going to happen. Was it a coincidence? No. It's putting ourselves in the right places. It's doing the right thing. It's having the faith that what we need is going to be taken care of. And we don't always recognize God's guidance, but He's with us. He's with us every step of the way. And, I can look back at my last 3.5 years, and when you talk about footprints, there's only one set. Period. There's one set. There's not two. There's probably not two today. But when we walk on the straight path that God lays out in front of us, it's not coincidence. It's our faith in God that's directing our lives for His purpose.
Amen.
I know that my wife Janie was placed in my life with purpose, and I thank God every day for her being part of that. And I know that there was no mistake in that. So, $358 check, right? So I thought, well, maybe it's there. And then it just came to me like I should look on page 358. So I did. That's not it. There it is. It was actually 50 cents. So I went halfway down the page, which is Judges 10. And it says, after time of, oh, wow, these guys' names are rough. Abimelech, a man of Issachar, named Tola, son of Puah, the son of Dodo, rose to save Israel. He lived in Shamir, in the hill country of Ephraim. He led Israel 23 years, then he died and was buried in Shamir. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, come to find out that we really don't know a whole lot about this person, but he judged Israel for 25 years. 25 years. And what are we doing in our life that's worth doing? What are we doing for God that's worth noting? When our life is over, my life is over, will people remember more than just what was in my bank account? And will they remember more than the number of years that I actually lived? And so, coincidence? I don't know. Confirming His word? I think that's where we're at. But I know there's one thing that everybody's hanging on to, right? What in the world does the $12 check have? I didn't know either. I didn't know either. Till today. 3.5 years this is what this has been going on. And I read Proverbs 3:5-8. But the $12 check just simply means that we need to read down 3:5-12. So I'll start with 9, where I left off. It says, honor the Lord with your wealth, with your first fruits, all of your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim with the new wine. Well, I know in my past I did not honor the Lord with my wealth. Period. I honored myself with it. I was a miser. Verse 11 says, my son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, and do not resent his rebuke. Because the Lord disciplines those he loves. As a father, the son he delights in. So there you have it. There's what the $12 check is. So, I appreciate it.
Amen.